Good morning, everyone from New York City. We're here at the Crack is Whack mural in Harlem, painted by Keith Haring in 1986. This is the first in a 5-part series that we're doing with our friends at the Metropolitan Museum of Art throughout June in celebration of Pride Month. We'll be featuring 5 LGBTQ artists that are in the collection of the Met, and we'll also be featuring the places where they made their art, such as this mural. And so hello, my name is Amanda Davis. I'm the project manager of the New York City LGBT Historic Sites Project. As you'll hear, New York City is very much in your, so we'll be competing with the noise of New York, but that's New York, that's what we love about it. So thanks for joining us. Our project has been around since 2015, and I hope you'll follow us to see more of the sites that we document. And now, hi Arthur. Arthur's going to give a chance to introduce himself before we go and chat about Haring's work. Over to you, Arthur.
Hi, I'm Arthur Polendo. I'm a technician. I work here at the museum, at the Metropolitan Museum, and it's great that I'm being asked to discuss this Keith Haring Untitled piece.
That's great. And so one of the differences that we noticed is that obviously the Crack is Whack mural here in Harlem, which, as I mentioned, Haring painted in 1986, and it's kept going by the Parks Department and the Keith Haring Foundation. You know, it's this big mural on a handball court that he painted spontaneously, and the piece you have Untitled is a much smaller piece, and something that's not on view. So what do you love about this piece that speaks to Haring as an artist?
Hi. Yeah, well, I love this work. It's Untitled. It's a print. But the one thing about Haring is he always wanted his artworks to be reached to a wide public, and not just the number of people, but also different demographics. And the thing about prints is this is from an edition of 70, and this is from Robert Fraser Gallery in London. So that was able to reach more people. In this sense, it's in the museum, and it's not on view at this present time, but it does allow people to see more of the artwork. This one here is actually, I like this. He's using the color, the orange frame as an accent, and it also flattens the space around, and we're seeing a pictorial view of this activity going on inside. It's like a futuristic, with these androids, spaceships, robotic figures, and it's sort of a little bit apocalyptic, if you will. This figure in the lower left quadrant is being wrapped around, going down the steps. If I could mention first about the space in this, because it is, somewhat flat. It's Haring's signature black lines. Pretty uniform with a white background. We do see the central figure in the center, which is also architectonic, like the shoulders end up forming little steps and these other figures interact. It's almost like a part of a giant stage set production. And we see this figure on the right side sort of riding this fictitious animal with human legs. And we see these other figures that are alien-like or robotic-like, that have these 2 prongs on their head. There's a lot of different motion, not only the figure going up the steps, and on the other side, there's a figure going downward, somewhat perhaps excited or aroused even, you might say. And then we see this other figure in the center. He's sort of waving this mask, which is similar to this head shape of this guy. So we're thinking about, or I'm thinking about how that relates to there. The sense of scale really intrigued me, where my body is shrunk down to like these figures, and I'm a part of this inside it. There's figures up top, these robotic arms are grasping things. We see this this outer edge, the frame is cropping like the wings on this angelic figure, cropping off what's going on with this figure that seems to be sitting on like a stool or perhaps sled that's transversing. and then this alien spaceship that's being propped up as well. Now, in this instance, like he's secluded in a print shop, drawing this with line work, and the lithography is being mass produced, and then it's for museums. I'm interested in the scale of the mural there on the Crackers Whack, how that's different. It's a horizontal format with a support structure, but how does that experience differ when one's there physically walking around? And I know it's both sides of that. If you could explain to that a little bit, Amanda.
Yeah. Well, what's really great about this mural that you can get a sense of maybe in the screen here is that these figures are life size. Yeah, so we can just see, I mean, like pretty much I'm average height. So you really get a sense of the monumentality of this piece on a handball court, a very familiar part of New York City parks, and, you know, just the fact that you can see it from all over. There's the Harlem River Drive, the playground itself, and Haring really wanted this piece to be a call out to youth of the 1980s when the crack epidemic was at its height here in New York City. The piece was dedicated to his studio assistant, Benny Soto, who was a gay Puerto Rican teenager from the Bronx, who was then addicted to crack. So it was a very personal piece for Haring, but it was also symbolic of the kinds of things that his art represented. He was very passionate about gay rights, about AIDS activism, and so that's what his art reflected. And this is really a wonderful way to show how Keith Haring existed in New York City. He wasn't just someone who painted in his studio. He was out and about on the streets, really responding to what New York was at the time, and still is, a dynamic city where pieces like this were just meant to light up the area. So this is the other side of it, which you don't always get a sense when you're looking at the mural online, that there are two sides of it. And again, Crack is Whack. And as I said, they were both done in 1986 and have been lovingly restored by the Parks Department and the Keith Haring Foundation, because Keith Haring was never about, in this way, thinking how it was going to exist long term. He was just always like, this is a great surface, I'm just going to go for it, like he did on his subway drawings that many people may be familiar with. So it's great that the Met has this untitled piece that is of its own, separate and speaks to a different element of his work, but it's still so emblematic. I mean, when you're showing that untitled piece, the playful characters and figures that are so iconic of Haring, you can, anywhere you are when you see that, you know exactly what artist that is. And he, as you know, unfortunately died so young in his early 30s in 1990 from AIDS. But his legacy lives on through this piece that you're sharing, this mural, and of course many other works of his.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the earlier
Yeah, do you
work.
see some?
I'm familiar with the earlier works he did with the white chalk on the subway, where he got started when he first moved to New York in the late 70s.
Yeah.
And on this one here, on this untitled piece, it is a little bit about, like, we see the robotic arm sort of grabbing this angelic figure, not very nice. And also this figure here with the horse, it seems to have like a serpent tail wrapped around another figure. It's starting to get along, like there's some sort of a futuristic, bad things are being done. But although on his later work, this foreshadows the Apocalypse series, where it was much more explicit. He also had some of these figures with the two horns or antennas, if you will. I also wanted to point out that these little dashes that are trademark of Haring, that are used to show movement. And also it's funny how the gravity sets, where we can see the movement of these figures with the arms, and also this guy pointing. There seems to be like energy conveying from, and almost like these antennas, as if there's some sort of energy being conveyed there. It's very good. And we could, even though these are somewhat generic to figures, like there's no specific facial features or dress, or it's not detailed in color, this is sort of the universal figure that he's known to be used in. He does go a little bit further, and like in the Crack is Whack mural, there's like a dollar sign with a zero bill that's on fire, and also some of these reminiscent, the figure of the skull in Crack is Whack also has these X's like on the eyes, and also some of the figures have the X's on the chest as if a demarcation, like they might be next in line,
Right.
and what's going on.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good catch. And I don't know if since we're competing with a lot of traffic up here, if you may have said earlier, and I apologize, what the Untitled, if there was a message that he was conveying through this piece, or if it was just, what angle he may have been trying to convey with Untitled.
Yeah, I was commenting that the sort of apocalyptic sort of theme, futuristic with the robots and androids, and even this angel, but it is showing all this activity, and this is like a detail of stuff going further on out in the picture plane that we don't see.
I see. Okay, yeah. There probably was a bus going by right when you said that. But yeah, this is great, and it really shows how his work is so like playful but with a message, and so iconic. And I think, I mean, it's been great to share this with you at the Met and with everyone listening from around the world. And that was Christiana, our our assistant here. But Arthur, it was great to chat with you about Keith Haring's work 30, 40 years later, to show how his life and legacy is still so beloved and relevant, and the causes that he stood for and the people that he wanted to help and reach. So thank you for joining us, Arthur, and the Met. And if there's just some closing words you'd like to say, Arthur.
Yeah, well, thank you, Amanda, as well. It's great speaking with you as well and hearing about the Crack is Whack mural. And happy Pride to everyone. I'm glad there'll be other installments there. And I have my crystal rainbow colors here on there, so help to celebrate that.
Yay!
And any other closing remarks, Amanda?
Yeah, that's great. And so, like Arthur said, happy Pride, everyone, and please join us for the rest of June. We have 4 more other LGBTQ artists that we'll be featuring in collaboration between the New York City LGBT Historic Sites Project and the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you in future lives. Bye, everyone.